Hello everyone. Today we will talk about strategy implementation, staffing and directing. Integration managers. This slide describes how companies handle integration challenges that often happen after mergers or acquisitions. When two companies merge, they may face problems related to differences in structure, culture, systems, or processes. To manage this effectively, some companies hire special integration managers, sometimes called integrators. Their main responsibility is to guide the merged organization through the transition process smoothly. Here's what the integrator does step by step. Prepare a competitive profile of the combined company. The integrator analyzes the strengths and weaknesses of the newly merged company. This helps to understand where the company stands compared to competitors. Draft an ideal profile of the future company. They create a clear picture of what the merged company should look like in the future, its structure, culture, competitive advantages, and operational efficiency. Develop action plans to close the gap. If there's a difference between the current situation and the ideal future, the integrator designs strategies and steps to bridge that gap. This may involve restructuring, improving processes, or adopting new technologies. Establish training programs. Since employees may come from different organizational cultures, training programs are created to unify the workforce, align goals, and build a strong, shared organizational culture. So, the integration manager acts as a bridge between the old and new organization, making sure the merger or acquisition leads to a stronger, more competitive company rather than internal conflict or inefficiency. Implementing new strategies often requires changes in human resource management, including hiring new talent, letting go of underperforming employees, and training current staff. Research shows that companies with effective talent management policies achieve better financial outcomes. Filling job vacancies takes an average of 48 days and costs about $3,270 per hire. During growth strategies, hiring and training become crucial, especially for new managerial roles. In acquisitions, about 25% of top management from the acquired company may leave within the first year, with turnover rates increasing over the following years. Retaining key employees is vital, as successful mergers often identify and target these individuals for retention early on. To address integration challenges, some firms appoint integration managers. These managers assess the strengths and weaknesses of the combined company, create ideal profiles, develop action plans, and establish training programs to enhance competitiveness. Successful integrators should have a deep understanding of the acquiring company, a flexible management style, cross-functional teamwork skills, independence, and cultural intelligence. Conversely, if a company adopts a retrenchment strategy, it may need to lay off many employees. In such cases, management must establish clear criteria for personnel decisions, which can sometimes lead to the closure of entire divisions instead of individual layoffs. The staffing requirements of a corporation often change in response to new strategies. Promotions should consider not only current job performance but also the skills necessary for implementing the new strategy. When adopting a new strategy, companies may need to hire new employees or retrain existing ones. For instance, Corning's filter plant successfully introduced team-based production by carefully selecting and training employees for problem-solving and teamwork, dedicating significant resources to training. Training and development are critical for effective strategy implementation, with leading companies prioritizing employee learning. Research indicates that organizations with training programs experience higher productivity levels. For example, Motorola invests heavily in training, linking it directly to their strategic goals, such as reducing product development cycle times and ensuring high quality. Training is also vital during downsizing. Companies like General Electric have focused on training remaining staff to maintain market share after workforce reductions. Overall, effective training aligns closely with strategic objectives, enhancing productivity and quality. Executive characteristics significantly impact a corporation's strategic outcomes. The effectiveness of a CEO may vary depending on their stage in a career life cycle. Early career involves experimentation, mid-career focuses on performance, and later stages may lead to decline. This creates an inverted U-shaped relationship between executive tenure and financial performance, prompting boards to assess when a replacement is necessary. The ideal executive type for implementing a strategy depends on the strategic direction. For instance, a concentration strategy benefits from an aggressive industry expert, while a diversification strategy requires an analytical portfolio manager. Stability strategies favor cautious profit planners, and turnaround specialists are sought for struggling companies. As corporate environments evolve, such as shifts in focus from growth to mergers, so too does the type of executive needed. Recent trends show a preference for CEOs with finance backgrounds, particularly among firms emphasizing acquisitions. Successful firms adapt their executive selection to align with their development stage and strategic needs, often recruiting from areas where they have historically found success. For example, Procter & Gamble typically promotes from brand management, reflecting its strategic orientation towards marketing. The 5 executive types represent different strategic mindsets and leadership styles. The dynamic industry expert is someone with deep expertise in a specific field who leads through innovation and adaptability, focusing on expansion and seizing new market opportunities. The analytical portfolio manager treats the company's business units like an investment portfolio, relying heavily on data and performance analysis to invest in strong areas and divest weak ones to maximize returns. The cautious profit planner prioritizes stability over rapid expansion, focusing on steady, predictable growth through careful financial planning and cost control. In contrast, the turnaround specialist is the kind of leader who steps in during a crisis, taking quick and bold actions to restructure the organization, cut costs, and restore performance. The professional liquidator focuses on closing or selling off underperforming businesses, aiming to maximize remaining value rather than attempting recovery. These executive types reflect different ways leaders respond to business challenges, set priorities, and shape the strategic direction of their organizations. Selection and management development are crucial for ensuring that individuals with the right skills are hired and prepared for future roles. Executive succession, or replacing key top managers, has become increasingly important, as the average tenure of US CEOs has declined from nearly 9 years in 1980 to about 6 years in 2006. 2/3 of major corporations replace their CEO at least once every 5 years, making succession planning vital, particularly for firms that promote from within. Companies that groom internal candidates for CEO positions often perform better than those hiring externally. For instance, firms using relay succession planning show higher performance compared to those that rely on external hires. Notably, Many successful companies, like General Electric and Microsoft, are recognized for cultivating executive talent internally. Best practices for succession planning include involving boards in creating plans, identifying potential candidates, and comparing internal candidates with external ones. Despite the advantages of internal succession, many companies still lack formal succession plans. While insiders tend to dominate CEO selections, 85% of S&P 500 CEOs in 2006 were insiders. Outsiders are often brought in during crises. However, hiring outsiders can be risky, as they often lead to higher turnover and may underperform over time. Studies show that while outsiders may perform well initially, their performance typically declines in the latter half of their tenure. Firms in distress frequently opt for outsiders to drive change, especially when there are no viable internal candidates. Companies can effectively identify and prepare employees for key positions through various strategies. A robust performance appraisal system helps highlight high performers with promotion potential. About 80% of large U.S. corporations attempt to evaluate managers' talents to align them with competitive strategies. For instance, General Electric has a significant leadership development program, and Xerox maintains a list of promising managers for special training and mentorship. Diversity in management is also crucial, as it can provide a competitive advantage. Organizations are increasingly recognizing the importance of hiring and promoting without bias based on race, ethnicity, or gender, reflecting a more inclusive approach. Many companies now employ assessment centers to evaluate candidates for advanced roles, using tailored exercises to measure suitability and predict future performance. Job rotation is another effective method, allowing employees to gain diverse experiences across different roles and divisions. Companies like GE rotate executives through various sectors to enhance their management skills and foster organizational learning. This practice is particularly beneficial for firms pursuing related diversification, as it promotes the transfer of knowledge and skills throughout the organization. In January 2009, Starbucks and Hershey Foods announced significant store closures and job cuts due to declining sales and profits, reflecting a broader trend where over 2.1 million U.S. workers were laid off in 2008. Downsizing, or right-sizing, is a strategy aimed at reducing costs through planned job eliminations. While this can lead to short-term benefits like increased stock prices, if executed poorly, it can harm productivity and morale. Studies show that downsizing often yields marginal gains. For instance, a 10% workforce reduction resulted in only a 1.5% cost decrease, and profits improved in only half of the downsized firms. Problems arise when the wrong positions are eliminated or when valuable employees leave, leading to increased workloads for remaining staff who may lack necessary skills. This can diminish morale, creativity, and overall organizational learning capacity. Downsizing can also prompt a cycle of further layoffs and cost-cutting, as seen in companies like Eastman Kodak and Ford, which continued to struggle with profitability even years later. In contrast, firms that successfully downsize do so as part of a strategic reorientation, focusing on restructuring rather than merely cutting staff, resulting in better long-term performance. Guidelines for successful downsizing. Eliminate unnecessary work. Focus on removing tasks that don't add value rather than making broad cuts. Streamline administrative levels and protect core competencies. Outsource wisely. Consider contracting out tasks that can be performed more cost-effectively by external providers, as seen with bankers' trusts outsourcing of various services. Plan for long-term efficiency. Avoid cutting essential expenses like maintenance and R&D. Continue hiring and development in critical areas. Communicate clearly. Inform employees about the reasons for downsizing and the company's goals. Promote educational initiatives to support this transition. Invest in survivors. Redefine job roles and provide training for remaining employees. Establish new performance standards and empower teams while nurturing potential leaders. Create value-added positions. Explore alternatives for surplus employees, such as reallocating tasks within the organization, exemplified by Harley-Davidson's collaboration with unions to find new roles for affected staff. Implementing an international expansion strategy requires extensive planning and significant investment, with costs for an executive abroad ranging from $300,000 to $1 million annually. Despite the high costs, about 80% of mid-size and larger companies send employees overseas, with 45% planning to increase these assignments. However, 10 to 20% of U.S. managers return early due to job dissatisfaction or cultural adjustment difficulties, and a significant portion underperforms during their assignments. Cultural differences necessitate tailored managerial styles and human resource practices. Unfortunately, only 11% of HR managers have international experience, leading to inadequate training for global assignments. Most companies prioritize technical expertise over cross-cultural skills, which complicates management in diverse environments. Successful multinational corporations (MNCs) emphasize intercultural training, resulting in lower expatriate failure rates. To foster organizational learning, many MNCs assign managers to international roles for up to 5 years, enhancing their understanding of global operations. Companies that effectively manage these assignments focus on knowledge transfer, matching technical skills with cross-cultural abilities, and implementing structured repatriation processes. MNCs often hire local nationals for managerial positions to align with host country cultures, but this can lead to communication and coordination challenges. Alternatively, some firms adopt an international orientation for staffing, which can create both opportunities and misunderstandings. Additionally, leveraging immigrants for key roles can facilitate entry into foreign markets, as seen with General Motors' approach in China. MNCs with interconnected activities benefit from providing significant international experiences to managers, enhancing their capabilities and global perspectives. As multinational corporations increasingly organize around product lines rather than geographic areas, many top managers become stealth expatriates, frequently traveling for international assignments, further enriching their global expertise. Successful implementation of organizational strategies involves guiding employees to effectively utilize their abilities and skills to meet corporate objectives. Without clear direction, individuals may prioritize tasks based on personal preferences rather than aligning with the company's goals, which can lead to inefficiencies, especially in international operations where cultural adjustments are necessary. Direction can come from various sources, including management leadership. Leaders set the tone and expectations for performance. Corporate culture. Norms of behavior established within the organization guide employee actions. Team agreements. Autonomous work groups may establish their own guidelines for collaboration. Formally, implementation may be facilitated through structured approaches like management by objectives (MBO) or total quality management (TQM). Organizations can also modify procedures to create incentives that motivate employees to align their efforts with corporate goals. For instance, Abbott Laboratories has implemented new procedures aimed at encouraging employees to adopt carbon-neutral vehicles, illustrating how targeted initiatives can drive alignment with broader organizational objectives, particularly regarding environmental sustainability. Corporate culture significantly influences employee behavior and a company's ability to adapt its strategic direction. A strong culture can hinder change, as shifts in mission, objectives, or policies may conflict with established norms. For instance, when Robert Nardelli became CEO of Home Depot in 2000, he attempted to transform the company's culture from a collaborative environment to one focused on military efficiency. His approach included imposing strict performance targets and replacing full-time employees with part-time staff, which led to decreased morale and customer satisfaction, resulting in his departure by 2007. There is no universally best corporate culture. The optimal culture aligns with the company's mission and strategy. Changes in strategy often necessitate corresponding adjustments in culture, but such changes can be time-consuming and require significant effort. Nardelli's efforts to reshape Home Depot's culture included bringing in executives from GE and military backgrounds, but these initiatives did not yield the intended results. Management's role involves evaluating the implications of strategic changes on corporate culture, determining if cultural adjustments are necessary, and weighing the costs of attempting such changes. Okay, now assessing strategy. Culture compatibility. When implementing a new strategy, companies should evaluate its compatibility with their existing culture through a systematic approach. Compatibility check. Assess if the proposed strategy aligns with the current culture. If yes, proceed by integrating organizational changes that enhance the mission. If no, move to the next step. Modifiability. Determine if the culture can be easily adjusted to better fit the new strategy. If yes, introduce minor changes such as structural modifications, training, or hiring managers aligned with the new direction. For example, Procter & Gamble adapted its culture while implementing cost reduction strategies without abandoning its brand management system, leading to improved productivity. If not, proceed to the next question. Management's willingness. Evaluate if management is prepared to make significant changes and accept potential delays and costs. If yes, create a new structural unit to facilitate the strategy, as General Motors did with the Saturn division, which fostered a new culture through extensive training and collaborative labor agreements. If not, consider the next step. Management commitment. Assess if management remains committed to the strategy. If yes, explore partnerships or contracts to execute the strategy. If no, develop an alternative strategy. An example is Robert Nardelli's tenure at Home Depot, where he misjudged the cultural compatibility and implemented changes that ultimately failed. A more strategic approach would have involved focusing on growing the professional side without disrupting the established collegial culture, which was later adopted by his successor after divesting from the professional supply businesses. Effective communication is essential for managing cultural change within organizations. IMC Kinsey & Company's survey of over 3,000 executives revealed that ongoing communication and employee involvement are critical for successful transformations. Key aspects of managing cultural change include clear vision. CEOs and top managers must articulate a strategic vision for the company's future, consistently comparing current performance with competitors and updating employees on progress. Translation of vision. The vision should be broken down into actionable elements, such as specific improvements in quality or service. Measurement systems must be established to monitor these aspects, with results communicated widely through recognition programs and incentives. An example of successful cultural change is seen in Young brands, formed from the acquisition of Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and KFC. The new management recognized the need for a distinct culture, different from that of PepsiCo. They created a declaration of independence to define their values and engaged restaurant managers in team-building activities, emphasizing their role as founders. Key initiatives included renaming headquarters to the Restaurant Support Center, integrating people-focused metrics alongside financial ones, offering stock options to restaurant managers, and implementing values-driven 360-degree performance reviews. These efforts reinforced a culture that prioritized people and fostered a strong sense of ownership among employees. When companies merge or acquire others, top management must address potential cultural clashes. A Hewitt Associates survey found that 69% of major U.S. corporations identified cultural integration as a top challenge. This issue can be particularly pronounced in international acquisitions, as demonstrated by Daimler Chrysler's failed attempt to integrate Mitsubishi Motors despite significant investment. The success of an acquisition often hinges on the similarity of the cultures involved. There are 4 general methods for managing differing corporate cultures. Integration. This method involves a balanced exchange of cultural practices, preserving aspects of both organizations. An example is Renault's acquisition of Nissan, where CEO Carlos Ghosn respected Nissan's culture while merging the two companies. Assimilation. In this approach, the acquired firm adopts the culture of the acquiring company, often willingly, if their previous culture was seen as unsuccessful. This occurred when Maytag acquired Admiral, as Admiral's employees embraced Maytag's quality-oriented culture to ensure job security. Separation. Here, the two cultures remain distinct and are structurally separated, with minimal cultural exchange. Boeing's acquisition of McDonnell Douglas exemplifies this, as it created a separate unit for McDonnell's operations to maintain its culture. Deculturation. This destructive method involves the forced imposition of one culture over another, leading to confusion and resentment. An example is AT&T's acquisition of NCR Corporation, where aggressive cultural changes resulted in poor performance and significant layoffs, ultimately leading to the divestment of the NCR unit. The choice of approach should depend on how much the acquired firm values its own culture and how attractive it finds the acquirer's culture. Action planning is essential for directing activities toward achieving strategic goals. At its core, an action plan outlines specific actions to be taken, who will execute them, the timeline, and the expected outcomes. Here's a breakdown of how to create an action plan, using the example of a company implementing a new advertising program after acquiring a retail chain. Key components of an action plan. Specific actions. Clearly define the steps needed to operationalize the program. For instance, contacting advertising agencies to propose a campaign. Timeline. Establish start and end dates for each action. For example, Allocate 1 week for selecting agencies and 3 months for them to prepare proposals. Responsible personnel. Assign a specific individual for each action, such as an advertising manager overseeing the program. Monitoring responsibilities. Identify who will ensure timeliness and effectiveness. This person will be the main contact and will report progress regularly. Expected results. Estimate the financial and physical outcomes, including expected increases in sales and measures for assessing campaign effectiveness. Contingency plans. Outline steps to take if initial proposals are unsatisfactory, including timelines for adjustments. Importance of action plans. Link between strategy and execution. Action plans connect strategic formulation with evaluation and control. Clarification of changes. They specify necessary operational changes. Performance appraisal. During evaluation, action plans facilitate performance assessment and identification of needed adjustments. Responsibility assignment. Clear assignments enhance motivation and accountability among team members. Okay. Now the question we need to answer is, why is an action plan important? Action plans are important for several reasons. Link between strategy and execution. They connect the formulation of strategies with evaluation and control processes. Clarification of operational changes. Action plans outline the specific changes needed in current operations. Performance appraisal. They assist in evaluating performance and identifying necessary remedial actions during the subsequent evaluation phase. Motivation. Clearly assigning responsibilities for implementation and monitoring can enhance motivation among team members. Management by Objectives (MBO) is a participative decision-making technique that promotes shared goal setting across all organizational levels and assesses performance based on the achievement of these goals. MBO effectively links organizational objectives with individual behaviors, making it a powerful implementation tool. Management by Objectives process. Establish and communicate objectives. Set clear organizational goals. Set individual objectives. Through interactions between superiors and subordinates, establish individual goals that support organizational objectives. Develop action plans. Create plans of activities necessary to achieve the set objectives. Periodic performance review. Regularly review performance at least quarterly in relation to objectives, incorporating these results into annual performance appraisals. Now, benefits of management by objectives. Alignment across levels. MBO connects the objectives of individuals at all levels to those of higher management, aligning corporate, business, and functional goals. Applicability. Despite originating in the 1950s, 90% of surveyed managers believe MBO remains relevant today. Reduction of internal politics. By clarifying the mission and objectives, MBO minimizes internal conflicts and divisions, as employees focus on achieving measurable goals rather than engaging in political maneuvering. In fact, MBO fosters a collaborative environment that enhances strategy implementation and reduces internal competition, leading to more effective organizational performance. Total Quality Management (TQM) is an operational philosophy dedicated to enhancing customer satisfaction and fostering continuous improvement across all organizational functions. It aims for excellence and can effectively support both low-cost and differentiation business strategies. Widely adopted, TQM has been implemented by 92% of manufacturing firms and 69% of service organizations. Despite some challenges, studies indicate that TQM is among the most effective methodologies for improving company performance. The key objectives of TQM include achieving better and more consistent quality in products and services, enhancing responsiveness to customer needs with reduced variability in processes, increasing flexibility to adapt to changing requirements, and lowering costs through quality improvements and the elimination of non-value-adding activities. TQM emphasizes that defects in quality stem from faulty processes rather than poorly motivated employees, focusing on preventive measures rather than corrective actions. Implementing TQM necessitates a significant cultural shift within organizations. It requires strong leadership, comprehensive employee training, and the empowerment of staff at all levels. A central principle of TQM is a relentless focus on customer satisfaction, where every employee understands their role in fulfilling customer needs, addressing both internal and external customers. Accurate measurement of critical operational variables is crucial, as TQM asserts that improvement can only occur in areas that are measured. Continuous improvement is vital, with ongoing monitoring needed to enhance products and services. Establishing new work relationships based on trust and teamwork further supports TQM, emphasizing the importance of employee empowerment. Ultimately, the success of TQM relies on top management commitment, an open organizational culture, and the active involvement of employees in quality improvement initiatives. Quality circles and improvement teams often play a significant role in identifying problems and suggesting enhancements to processes. Dimensions of national culture. Hofstede's study of 53 national cultures identified 5 key dimensions that define cultural differences and influence management practices. He found that national culture often overshadows strong corporate cultures, affecting the success of management strategies across different countries. The 5 dimensions include power distance (PD). This dimension measures the acceptance of unequal power distribution within organizations. Countries like Malaysia and Mexico score high on power distance, favoring autocratic management styles, while Germany and Austria score low, preferring participative approaches. Uncertainty avoidance (UA). This dimension gauges how societies cope with ambiguity. Greece and Japan exhibit high uncertainty avoidance, preferring stability and clear rules, whereas the United States and Singapore are more comfortable with uncertainty and flexible structures. Individualism collectivism (IC). This dimension reflects the value placed on individual freedom versus group loyalty. The US and Canada score high on individualism, emphasizing personal achievement, while countries like Mexico and Guatemala lean towards collectivism, valuing group success. Masculinity femininity (MF). This dimension assesses whether a culture prioritizes material success masculinity or relationships and quality of life femininity. Japan and Mexico score high on masculinity, whereas Sweden and France score higher on femininity, focusing on equality and interdependence. Long-term orientation (LT). This dimension indicates the focus on long-term versus short-term outcomes. Hong Kong and Japan score high on long-term orientation, emphasizing persistence and thrift, while Pakistan scores low, indicating a short-term focus. Hofstede's findings were expanded by Project Globe, which examined additional cultural dimensions and their effects on leadership and management practices. The results highlight why certain management techniques succeed in some cultures but fail in others. For example, management by objectives (MBO) worked well in Germany due to its low power distance, while it struggled in France, where high power distance is prevalent. Cultural differences can create challenges during mergers and acquisitions, particularly when organizations from high and low uncertainty avoidance societies combine. Companies must assess each other's management practices to identify potential conflicts. As globalization increases, managing cultural differences becomes essential for effective strategy implementation. Multinational corporations (MNCs) must recognize and adapt to the diverse cultural dimensions in their operations worldwide. This involves understanding that values rooted in national culture significantly shape executives' orientations and approaches, regardless of their corporate culture or industry experience. Ultimately, effective multicultural management is crucial for the success of global enterprises.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to channel.